I got the message saying that there was a recording in process.
Heather, yeah, we just started the recording. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you and I can still see you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You go to isn't it under the camera thing? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. How do you do a voice? Just a voice recording?
Isn't the memo?
Maybe it's a memo.
Yeah.
Oh my. Absolutely.
I'll put it on as well.
Okay. All right, let's get started. Okay. Good morning, everyone. This hearing now commenced. Today is December 21st, 2023. The time is exactly 9:32 in the morning. We're assembled here in the Bataan Memorial Building Conference Room, room 191, located at 407 Galisteo Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have been designated as the presiding hearing officer in this matter. My name is Albert J. Lama. I'll be acting, as I said, as the presiding officer on behalf of the Department of Finance and Administration located in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The purpose of this hearing today is for the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration to receive public comment, views, testimony, arguments, information that is relevant and data on the proposed amendment to DFA's current regulation 2.42.2 New Mexico Administrative Code regulations governing the Per Diem and Mileage Act. The Department of Finance and Administration welcomes everyone present at this hearing. This hearing is being conducted pursuant and in accordance with the provisions of the Per Diem and Mileage Act, specifically Section 1085, which authorizes the Secretary of the Department of Finance and Administration to promulgate rules for the purpose of carrying out the provisions of that statute. Also, Section 1081 to 1088 State Rules Act, Section 14.4.1 to Section 14.411, and the default procedural rule for rulemaking, which is 1.24.25 NMAC, which was adopted in 4/10/2018. Public notice of this hearing was advertised in the New Mexico Register on November 21st, 2023. Copies of that proposed rule have been made available and are at the DFA's office since the notice of proposed rulemaking and public rule hearing was published. Proposed rule was also published on DFA's website and was available to anyone who requested them in advance. Copies of the proposed rule are also available through the New Mexico Sunshine portal. Today, they are also available to those attending this hearing. Copies of the proposed rule, which I will speak to in a moment, show changes to the existing rule in underline, showing the new text, and strike-throughs showing deletions. The purpose of amending the existing sections of the rule by repeal and replacement is to enhance the clarity, providing additional definitions, coming into conformance with New Mexico statutory responsibilities, increasing the flexibility of the department to change per diem amounts and reimbursements in lieu of per diem paid to public officers and employees, providing updates to the per diem payments for meetings attended by non-salaried public officials, increasing mileage reimbursements to public officers and employees to match Internal Revenue Service standard mileage rates, and finally, to provide increased reimbursement for certain actual expenses paid by public officers and employees. Very briefly, Section 5 of the existing rule is amended to reflect the date of the proposed amendments. Section 7 is amended to include enhanced definitions, and in order for them to be in conformance with statute. Section 8 is amended to replace specific dollar amounts for per diem rates, depending on hours traveled beyond the normal workday. Provide non-salaried officers with $95 for physically attending a meeting for more than 4 hours, or $45 for physically attending a meeting for less than 4 hours, or virtually attending a meeting instead of providing the previously authorized $95. Section 9 is amended to replace existing specific dollar amounts for reimbursement. Section 11 is amended to change the mileage reimbursement. Section 12 is amended to provide that state officers and employees may receive full reimbursement for taxi or transportation fares incurred at destination. Certain allowed gratuities not to exceed 20% per transaction, parking fees, and other incidental expenses. An explanation more specific will be provided by the DFA representative who will be presenting the proposed rule at this hearing today. I'd like to remind everyone who is present, if they would please be sure to sign the attendance sheet that will later be included as an exhibit and become part of the record of this proceeding. I note from the record that the individuals who signed the attendance sheet do not plan on testifying at this point. If that changes during the course of the hearing, please advise me and I will offer an opportunity to present testimony and any written exhibits that you may have to present. Let the record reflect that counsel to DFA, Louise Carrasco of the Brody, Dickinson, Sloan, Aiken, and Robb Law Firm is present to advise the presiding officer and others at this hearing. Also present is Mr. Michael Melhoff from DFA staff, who will be presenting testimony here today. Let's go ahead and have anyone else present for the record their attendance here today.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it. Will you be providing any written testimony or oral testimony today?
No, sir.
All right, very well, thank you. So I would like to go ahead at this point in time and introduce into the record the pre-filed comments, any pre-filed comments and a few other documents that are presented on the table. Courtney, would you mind bringing me those documents? I understand they've been pre-marked for purposes of the record. I will go ahead and introduce them into the record.
If you don't mind me interjecting really fast, it's Mark Melhoff.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mark.
It's all right.
My apologies.
There are 3 copies of each there. So.
Thank you. So for the record, Exhibit 1, which is the notice of proposed rulemaking. Exhibit 2 is the proposed rule 2.42.2. Exhibit 3 is the current existing rule that is seeking to be revised here today, 2.42.2. Exhibit 4 are comments that were submitted by the State Records Center and Archives regarding the proposed rule and the technical aspects of how that rule should be formatted. Exhibit 5 is the IRS local travel guide that I believe Mr. Melhoff will be explaining the relevancy of that to us here shortly. Those are the pre-marked exhibits. They will become part of the record along with the recording that is currently being offered for this hearing, an audio recording. It will also be made available for review by members of the public. Anyone that would wish to review any of these exhibits during the course of the hearing today is happy to do so. They are here placed at the table by my side. All right, the hearing will be conducted in the following manner. I'll open the hearing for testimony that will be received, entered into the record from DFA staff. We'll address the proposed rule here today, and no other additional information will be offered into the record except for information that is relevant to the disposition of this proposed rulemaking. Introduction of written comments or other documents may be done at the time of testimony. Written comments may be introduced during the hearing, and I will mark them sequentially and include them with the rest of the pre-filed exhibits that have already been introduced. Any members of the public that do attend and would like to offer written or oral comments will have the opportunity to do so. I will note for the record that aside from the individuals that I have mentioned and those who have introduced themselves here this morning, there are no members of the public that are here present. I assume that means that there is no one who will be providing a written or oral testimony. However, we will certainly keep that option available if anyone decides to attend and participate while this hearing is being conducted. This is as I said, Mr. Melhoff, who is the acting state controller, Financial Control Division, Department of Finance and Administration, is ensuring that this matter has been recorded and will be made, that recording will be made available for the record as well. The rules of evidence do not apply to this proceeding. In the interest of efficiency, I will, however, reserve the right, in accordance with the rule, to limit any exhibits, testimony, commentary, or other evidence that I deem to be irrelevant, redundant, or repetitious. That decision as to whether or not any information is to be limited will be made by me as the presiding officer. The complete rulemaking record, including any memoranda summarizing the contents of this hearing, will be compiled by me and forwarded to the Secretary of the Department of Finance Administration, who will familiarize himself with the record before rendering a decision on the proposed rule. In the event that the Secretary approves this proposed rule, then he may adopt it by giving and signing a concise explanatory statement under the New Mexico Administrative Code. Any person wishing to submit public comment, views, testimony, arguments, information, and any other data shall do so after they are recognized by me here today. Let the record show that all persons intending to testify or comment at this hearing will be sworn or affirmed that their testimony and commentary will be truthful. I understand, Mr. Melhoff, that you wish to enter commentary regarding the proposed rule change, including the proposed reasoning and any information or technical information that you may have relied on. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Very well. I will now open the floor. If you would like to raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're providing at this hearing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Thank you very much. If you would please go ahead and identify yourself for the record, sir, and present any information you'd like to regarding this proposed rule change.
Mark Melhoff, I am the current acting state controller for the state of New Mexico. Thank you for your time today. I think you covered most of what we've done by publishing the rule notice, Sunshine Portal, our website, newspapers, everything that we're required to do. So I'll just kind of go through and touch on each of the areas of the rule that's changing and what the thought process or reasoning behind those changes are. And we'll start with, I think section 5 is is the date, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Section 7, we are conforming to the IRS rule, and I believe the IRS rule is one of the exhibits. So if there's any questions on that, it's exhibit 5. IRS requires a 50-mile radius when it comes to the home tax base, and when someone's eligible or not for travel per diem reimbursement. The state of New Mexico had always used 35. It just never was updated. So we are updating that to match what's required by the federal government. Section 8 is more state legislation. Back in the laws of 2021, the state legislature made some sweeping changes to the Travel and Per Diem Act, which now will be reflective in the proposed rule. And that's your 95-45, whereas before there was a flat 95 for everyone. The legislature changed that to a tiered scale based on the type of attendance and the length of the meeting, which is the 95 and 45. So that's what's changing there. We're also removing the rates in the current rule. The rate is written by the number $85 is what the current rule says. the legislature changed that in the laws of 2020. The state legislature changed that in the laws of 21 to give DFA the ability on an annual basis to review that in conjunction with the federal GSA rates, and then set that rate by publishing it on our website and in maps. So we're changing the rule to reflect that, to remove the rate and give DFA the authority to do that as it's written in state statute. Section 9, very similar to that. It's just setting what is required by DFA through that legislation, which requires us to publish the upcoming year's rates May 1st, which we do every year, and that will now be in the rule. Section 11, we're removing the 80% threshold on mileage reimbursement. In state statute, allows the state to reimburse up to 100% of the IRS rate that they set every year. In prior years, the rule was set at 80%. We're just conforming that to state statute to the full 100%. And then section 12 is the other section of statute and rule where we refer to other out-of-pocket expenses. We're just technically clarifying that they require a receipt and that there's a cap on those tips or gratuities as it's explained in the rule. I think that's pretty much it. Make sure I don't miss anything. Good.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I did not miss anything. Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any comments that are here present today on Mr. Melhoff's testimony regarding the proposed changes to the rule? Does anyone have any written comments that they would like to include in the record that they have not already done so in regards to the rule? Ms. Melhoff, any additional written comments that you'd like to introduce into the record? Anything in addition to your testimony here today that you would like as part of the record?
No, sir.
Right, very well. As I note for the record, the time is 9:45, 9:46 a.m. No, we do not have anyone that has so far appeared. If we would like to wait a few more additional moments to see if anyone would like to attend, I'm happy to do so. All right. Very well. I've been advised by Mr. Carrasco, our legal counsel, that we should await approximately 5 minutes. Additionally, just to ensure that anyone who has an interest to participate in this proceeding has that opportunity to do so. So we will take an additional 5 minutes, and then we will begin and close the hearing, and I will discuss and advise what the remainder of the process looks like.
Want to admit the log of attendees now, or is that, yeah?
At the end. That should be pre-marked as Exhibit 6. All right, I know for the record that the time is 9:51 a.m. In the interim period of time that we took, I also know for the record that no additional individuals have arrived or have expressed an interest to offer testimony and any exhibits for this hearing. So I will go ahead and proceed. I note that the attendance sheet includes the names of all individuals that have been present here today. I'm going to go ahead unless there are any objections or questions regarding the attendance sheet and its contents. I will go ahead and introduce that as Exhibit 6 into the formal record of the rulemaking proceeding. And at this time, I will note that the hearing testimony and the record of this proceeding is now closed. No further public comment will be provided, either written or oral, nor will it be accepted at any time in the future. The record and the decision of the Secretary of the Department of Finance Administration on this rule includes the contents of the documentation and the oral testimony that has been received here today. That public comment, views, testimony provided, information and data relied upon by the department in promulgating this proposed rule will be considered by the Secretary of the Department. If the Secretary approves the proposed rule, he will give a concise explanatory statement regarding the reasons for the rulemaking and may adopt the rule by signing the concise statement. That procedure is consistent with default procedural rule for rulemaking 1.24.25 NMAC April 2018 administrative rule. The date of adoption of the proposed rule will be the date the concise explanatory statement is signed by the Secretary unless otherwise specified in the concise explanatory statement. Rule amendments adopted by the Secretary will be filed with the State Records Center and Archives within 15 days of adoption of the rule in accordance with the State Rules Act, the default procedural rule for rulemaking, and the New Mexico Administrative Code regulations. Unless the explanatory statement provides otherwise, adopted rule amendments will become effective immediately upon their publication in the New Mexico Register, pursuant to the State Rules Act and the default procedural rule for rulemaking. I would like to thank everyone who attended this hearing today for their participation. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Milhoff, for your testimony and for your participation and attendance here today, and for ensuring that we have a record of this proceeding. Let the record reflect that this hearing was adjourned at 9:54 a.m. on December 21st, 2023. Thank you very much for your participation and attendance.